Thomason, I'm going to step in for Senator Pillion to chair a meeting of opioid abatement authority for board of directors, and I will now call this meeting to order. Following board members are in attendance. Senator Pillion still on the phone. I had one.
Madam Chair, the senator has been pulled into a Senate Budget Committee meeting, so he'll be in and out.
Okay, very good. We have OAA Treasurer to my left, Delegate Brianna Sewell, Sheriff Joe Barron, and Ingrid Barman. I think remotely we have Mrs. Debbie Ritter. Is that correct? She's not on quite yet. All right, and
Secretary.
oh, Secretary Peter, thank you for being here. Anybody else? All right, well, we have a quorum. So we will move to approve our minutes from our meeting from November 19th, 2025, as they were posted on the website. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That was unanimous. Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Tony McDowell, our Executive Director, for his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We can go to the next. There we go. So welcome to the 2026 Virginia Recovery Conference. I hope you're very excited about this. I know we certainly are. This is, there's some points here to share on the slide, but let me just tell you that this is the first time that we're aware of, and we've done some checking, that in the state of Virginia, that there's been a statewide meeting to talk about addiction, to talk about the opioid crisis, that specifically targeted an audience of city and county officials. And so we're putting together city and county leaders, local nonprofits, people in the recovery system, clinicians, treatment providers, peers, people in recovery, putting all these folks from this ecosystem together for the first time. And I think that is very exciting. The conference is hosted by the OAA's nonprofit foundation, which is a partner organization to the authority, with support from the authority and from a number of other organizations. We have 5 general sessions planned. Well, I should back up. The conference starts today at 1 o'clock. We'll kick it off with 2 general sessions today, 3 additional general sessions over the course of the next 2 days, as well as 20 separate breakouts. Every one of the breakout sessions is designed to provide an example of a project that is showing success, or to provide assistance to cities and counties as they look for examples of ways that they can use opioid settlement funds within their own communities to have a positive impact. The goal for the conference itself is to become self-sustaining over time, so that the cost of registration, the support we get from sponsors, from exhibitors, pays for the cost of the conference, so that we're not taking money that could have been given in the form of grants to recipients and using that in the conference, that instead the conference becomes self-sufficient at the time. We won't know until the end of the conference how close we came to that goal this time, but I can tell you that we sold out. Registrations sold out more than a month ago, which for a first of its kind conference is I think a pretty laudable success. We actually have 418 people registered because we had some folks that we had invited that put us over the cap number, but that's okay. And it's important to point out that 122 of our 400 registered attendees are also, these are people who have registered and who are also speaking about a project that they're managing. So you have people that are really paying it forward, in the sense that they've received OAA funding, and now they're telling their story as an attendee of the conference. And so it's sort of like an owner-operator feel to this event. And so just a couple other points that I want to share with you is that we're going to be doing headshots. So professional photography by Sarah Harris Photography. You can see that she's got a spot set up out here in the lobby. We wanted to give members of the board the opportunity to go through that this morning before we open it up for the 400 plus attendees, because each registered attendee is going to be able to get a headshot as part of their registration. So you'll see that afterwards, as well as box lunches that are being brought in for, I'm not sure if it's box lunches or buffet, but lunch right out here for the board members. And so please feel free to help yourself to that as we wrap up. And so with that, I think we can go to the next slide. I wanted to take a moment to introduce our friends from Associate Media, and I'm gonna ask Stephanie to step up in just a moment, but let me give you a little bit of background. Last year, the board authorized staff to procure professional services from a communications firm to help the authority with its messaging. So this includes just our overall branding and communication strategy. For example, what needs to be done with our required annual report every year? How can we make sure we're communicating with the press and through our email streams in the most effective way? We knew we needed to refresh our website. It was really important, and the board asked us to look at telling stories through social media, not just to blow our own horn, if you will, but to get these stories out as examples for others to look at and to use as models of what they might be able to do in their community, and to tell those stories in a very person-centered way. And so Consociate Media was selected after an extensive and very competitive procurement process, and they've been doing all of these things for us. They put together so far 5 focused stories, and each one of these focused stories includes video, including some cut downs for social media. If you look on the table over here to my right, you'll see the 1-page printouts from each of those 5 stories that we're going to be handing out during the conference. And they've helped us with press relations for each one of these stories. So sharing those stories with the local media and with the local community to really get the story out. So if you're not following the OAA on social media, just go into whatever your favorite social media app is and search for Opioid Abatement Authority. And just by show of hands, has anybody here already seen some of these videos? And so if you haven't, please, go in there and click and like. We actually have our own YouTube channel now, so they're all available there as well. And so at this time, I'd like to ask Stephanie Heinitz, who's the founder and principal for Associate Media, if she would stand to be recognized and introduce your team members and any comments.
I'm not sure where to go because everyone starts off just right here. First and foremost, thank you all for entrusting us with the privilege of telling the stories about what's going on in recovery across the state. Here at the conference today is myself, I'm Stephanie, and one of my partners, Brian Harris. We are located in the Tidewater area of Virginia, but over the last 6 months, we have literally been traversing the entire state. One of the things I know that's really important to the OAA is data analytics, and you guys already do such an incredible job with that, with the SUDA platform, and we helped get the word out about that when that launched to the public. But the power of what we've been able to work on is really those narrative, emotional stories about the impact that's happening. And so when you combine the data analytics with the stories that we've been privileged to tell, we've been seeing some really great traction in the awareness of what OAA is doing, both in press pickups and in the impressions you're getting on social media and across the website. And I feel like we're just getting started, but we've already done quite a bit. Just so you know, our approach has been that every time we go visit a site, because people absorb story in so many different ways, every story is in video, it's in these printed pieces, it's in narrative, which are now on blog posts on the website, and lots of imagery. The thing I'll say in closing, Tony, is we did a visit to the Northwestern Regional Adult Detention Center. And after we sent over the videos, I don't think we've ever gotten a compliment that was this great. But the superintendent there said, I know this program and I love this program, but watching the video back, I realized how much I love this program. So you guys are enabling that for folks, and thank you for allowing us to be part of it.
Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah. I don't know how they're doing it for the price they're charging us.
Husband is our financial guy, don't say that.
So we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, just some housekeeping. Early 2025, the OAA received an audit by the Auditor of Public Accounts, and there were some overall the findings were positive. We were in compliance with everything we need to be in compliance with, but they made some recommendations to the board that the board received last year that we accepted. We didn't dispute. Essentially, that we needed to begin to do a better job of documenting some of our administrative processes. We needed to have a documented, formalized information technology security plan. and we needed to document our internal administrative policies. Everything from the way staff turns in their timesheets to, how we manage our expense reimbursement for board members. And we already had documentation for these things, but they weren't compiled into one format. And then there were some gaps in our sort of our day-to-day administrative policies. And we also needed to develop a grants compliance manual for our recipients that takes all of the terms and conditions that we have, the legalese from the code, and put it all together into one manual. And so, being that we have a relatively lean staff, we sought out through procurement, a firm that could help, an auditing firm that could help us compile all of these things in a way that would meet the recommendations of AEP. We wound up hiring really two firms. One, the first is Strategic Technology Services, which is our IT provider, to help us develop the IT security policies, which they did. And then RSM LLP, which is an accounting firm, they won the bid to help us compile the policy manual and the grants compliance manual. And so that second one has been the biggest lift. Both of these are now complete in a final format, in a draft format. We were hoping to bring them to this board meeting for approval, but it's not, we always talk about, we don't want to bring to the board. If we're gonna bring you a cake, it needs to be a fully baked cake. The icing's gotta look perfect. And we have a little bit more work to do on these before they're fully ready. And because there's some thickness to these, right? They're reviewing policies is maybe not something that you enjoy as much as watching our consociate videos, right? It's dry and it's thick, and we didn't want to drop that on the board with just a week or two to look at it before the meeting. And so what we're asking is give us a little bit more time to finalize these policies. And then under new business, if the board will consider it, I'm gonna ask that you consider a motion that would delegate authority from the full board to the finance committee to do that review, and then for them to have a special meeting and to adopt these policies once they feel that they're ready. So finance committee includes our chair, our vice chair, our treasurer. So it's really probably the right group of individuals to be doing this analysis in the first place. And so I'm happy to pause there and answer any questions you might have about the policy meetings. It's gonna be dry stuff, so. Next slide is, switching gears a little bit. I want to talk about the substance use disorder analytics system, and so I think everyone in the room, at least the board members and staff, has some level of familiarity. Just as a reminder, SUDA was launched as a legislative initiative, primarily driven by our chair and by Delegate Sewell, along with support from their colleagues in the General Assembly. It was written into budget language in the previous biennium to appropriate funds from the state's share of the opioid settlement funds to create a new web-based, enterprise-based substance use disorder analytics platform. We've got my colleague Bob Ramos in the audience. Bob is the lead for this project under the Michigan IT agency. In the Office of Data Governance, we've had multiple contractors that have worked with the state to do this. It's truly a phenomenal system. It's probably the first of its kind in Virginia, in that it's drawing data that had been in silos from different agencies in different secretariats and pulling it all together into one platform, a dashboard, if you will, with really amazing visualizations and query tools built into it that's accessible to the general public. Anybody that has access to the internet can look at these tools, but then there's additional data that is restricted for people that have a need to know access in order to make sure that we protect personally identifiable information through through a logging process. And so the system has been up and running since last fall. In the most recent release made available to the public in February of this year, we've done several webinars. We have recordings on our website about how to use it, and the SUDA dashboard. The SUDA has its own website that's up and running and provides guidance for people that are interested in doing the research. We still have some very significant challenges that we're working through. There are some data accuracy efforts that we're cleaning up, which I think is any data platform of this scale, it's going to take a little while to do the data verification, the VCU Wright Center for Clinical and Translational Science is helping us with that, working directly with the Office of Data Governance. They've already made a number of pretty important corrections. The other big challenge that we have is the level of restriction that's imposed by our data stewards on some of the restricted data is making it difficult for our cities and counties to be able to use the data at the community level the way they need to. And so we are working with those data contributors primarily at the Virginia Department of Health and with Virginia Information. Which oversees the all payer claims database. I'm getting into way too much data, but way too much information. We're working through all of that now. You will see in the budget that's being finalized right now in the General Assembly that an additional $6 million is in that budget. Not in the part of the budget that's really the source of debate right now. That's general fund. This is in a special fund because it's coming from opioid settlement funds. But there's an additional $6 million over the 27-28 biennium that will allow the system to become even more to capture more data and to provide predictive analytics. And so with the assistance of experts like Bob Ramos here in the audience and the team that's been supporting him and probably with additional contractors, we intend to deliver that project over the next couple of years. So that's really just for the board. That's an update on where we stand with SUDA. And as always, I'm happy to take any questions you have. Oh, one last point, there is a presentation that's going to be provided at the conference. So if you look in your agenda, you'll see that we've got presenters that are providing a more in-depth review of where we are with SUDA. This is just a screenshot that gives you an idea of what the public dashboard looks like on its landing page. And then individuals can dive into any one of those tiles and they can look by city, by county, by year, and really do those more in-depth searches to get in one place a good snapshot of substance use disorder analysis for whatever area that they're interested in looking at, whether it's overdoses, whether it's community level data, whether it's comparisons with other states. All right, switching gears a little bit. And under new business today, the board will be asked to consider a motion that would allow us to continue to have a policy for all virtual meetings and for board members to participate virtually during in-person meetings. And so under state law, the state's FOIA law requires that any board, any state commission, any committee such as the Opioid Abatement Authority board, in order to be able to take advantage of what the state law allows, you have to have the authority has to have its own policy adopted. And you have to re-adopt it every year. Policy is only good for 1 year at a time. And so while we could just re-adopt the existing policy, because we're cleaning up all of our policy manuals, we've tweaked a little bit of really just these are style edits more than anything. So I've highlighted what's going to change if the board chooses to re-adopt its existing policy. We've just added the language in the title, but this also includes all virtual public meetings. And then we've added in some punctuation and so forth. And so this is what you're seeing on this slide is what will be proposed for adoption under new business. And I'll pause and ask our esteemed in-house counsel if I missed anything on this.
No, you haven't.
Similarly, we are proposing a couple of very minor edits to the Opioid Abatement Authority's bylaws. Particularly under section 2.1, the bylaws require that the authority maintain a principal office in the city of Richmond, which we do. Our lease is coming up in the next year at this office, and we would like to be able to recommend to the board that we take into account opportunities to locate in localities in the Richmond area, but maybe not necessarily specifically in the city of Richmond. We see a number of other state agencies moving their headquarters to the localities that surround the city of Richmond. And we will follow the direction of the board as to where the office gets located, but we want to bring you options when our lease is up that could include a Chesterfield or a Hanover, Henrico location. And then the other item that you'll see is under section 4.4. We're really just cleaning up these code sections so that they align with what's actually in the statute. And there's no substantive change to that. It's just making sure the citation is correct. As the state citation changes over time, we need to conform our bylaws with those citations. Mr. Schlesman, am I right on this one too?
Thumbs up.
And then finally, I need to give you an update on the composition of our board and some of the board committees. And so we, as I think most of you know, our board member, Mr. Darrell Washington, had to reluctantly resign his seat representing community service boards when he was given the honor of joining the governor's cabinet back in January. And so with that resignation, that seat became vacant in January. So we have a vacancy for a representative of an urban community services board. Additionally, Mr. Tim Spencer, who was acting in his capacity as city attorney for Roanoke, representing city and county, practicing city or county attorney on the board. Mr. Spencer retired from the city of Roanoke in late March, and so that required him to resign from the board. And so we also have that position vacant. I have been in communication with the administration about these vacancies. The Secretary of the Commonwealth is aware of these vacancies, and you know, this time of year with the new administration, they have a lot of vacancies to fill for different boards, commissions across the state government. And so I trust that these are in the queue. In addition, each board member has we have staggered terms, and Dr. Thomason's term and Mr. Mike Tillam's term are both up at the end of this month. Mr. Tillam has applied to be considered for reappointment. I'm very sad, but it's bittersweet to say that Thomason has decided not to seek reappointment. She's been with the authority since it was formed in 2021, has carried a lot of heavy water for the foundation since day one. And acting as vice chair has meant that she's been on all of the committees, and she's been amazing about attending both virtual and in person, driving from Bristol to come to these meetings, and has a lot going on in her own professional life. So just want to say thank you for your support and participation.
It's been my entire professional being. I'm very sad to leave. I think it's best for me at this point to exit.
Well, thank you very
That's
much.
very-
And she didn't tell me in time for us to put together a plaque or anything, so you're going to come back to me next. So both Dr. Thomason's position, and Mr. Tillam's position are up for reappointment at the end of the month. It has been practice in the past that if an appointment for a sitting board member hasn't been filled with somebody else, then typically they will remain in that seat until the appointment takes effect. And so we'll watch what happens with that. But given these changes, normally we do the election of officers at the November meeting, but we're going to need to do some elections today in order to make sure we have officer positions filled for the remainder of the term, really just to carry us through until November. And then what that will mean also is the chair and his authority may make some changes to the appointments to the current committees. That's it. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report. I'm happy to turn it over.
For that excellent report. Now I'm going to turn it over to our treasurer, Delegate Brianna Sewell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to do my best to get through this information as quickly as possible, but as you can imagine, it's probably detailed on my best. So, good morning, everyone. If you don't, we're good. So, good morning, board members, and all those who are in attendance with us. Today's report is an itemized presentation of the information presented during the June 5th Finance Committee meeting. Items include an update on estimated payment amounts and other financial details, and an update on the Opioid Abatement Authority audit and compliance activities, and revisions to the OAA's fiscal year 2027 through 2028 proposed budget. This slide provides an overview of estimated settlement payments and the corresponding budget. And the biggest change since our last board meeting is the new settlement, which was announced, and that is Albertsons. And Albertsons is a grocery store chain that operates Safeways in the Commonwealth. And the estimated settlement amount for Virginia is $16.7 million. Of which 9.1 million will come to the OAA and will be paid out over 9 years. And this settlement brings the total to 21 companies. And with the newest settlement, it brings the total estimated payments to the OAA to a little over 629 million. And 213.9 million has been deposited in the opioid abatement fund. Next slide. We are now on to the opioid abatement authority's cash flow as of fiscal year 26. Accounting period ending May 31st. The beginning fund balance on July 1 was 126.1 million. And the current fiscal year to date cash inflow from settlement payments and interest earnings on deposit amounts totals 36.7 million in the opioid abatement fund. I failed to note that Adam will be tag teaming with me, so if I miss any information, he's gonna make sure to just type in whenever possible, but I'm gonna try my best to like summarize this as quickly as possible. So carrying on, fiscal year to date cash outflows include actual state and local grant distributions and administrative costs totaling 41.6 million, resulting in 121.3 million cash on hand. And we're on to our next slide. And anyone's welcome to stop me if they have questions. Now for a brief update on the investment return. The OAA has generated on its deposits to the opioid abatement fund for the fiscal year. As shown on this slide, you can see the actual and estimated quarterly interest disbursements and returns based on rolling average fund balances for the duration of the fiscal year. As you can see, the opioid abatement authority is projected to earn a risk and cost-free return of about 4.4% and just under $6 million. I also think it's worth noting that the interest generated on these deposits is projected to exceed the entire cost of the opioid abatement authority's fiscal year 26 administrative expenses by over $2.1 million. Next slide. Now transitioning to the projected funds available for grant awards. The graph depicts the information contained in the table. The blue line depicts the estimated annual settlement payments and the annual budget expenditures for each category represented as the stacked bar charts. Grant awards increased substantially in fiscal year 24 and continue to increase with over 35 million and 36 million awarded for each subsequent performance period. This is in relation to the settlement payment revenues totaling 213.9 million throughout the current fiscal year. And this results in a projected net carry forward balance of roughly 103 million going into fiscal year 27 for the current application cycle, with 33 million available for individual distribution awards. While the remaining carry forward balance has been budgeted for discretionary awards over multiple years, consistent with the board's adopted measured budgeting approach.
Madam Treasurer, Madam Chair, if I could just add one comment here.
Sure.
You'll notice on the bar chart that for fiscal year 27, that bar is much higher than the others. And the reason for that, if you can strain your eyes and you see the portion of the bars that's orange, that orange represents the amount that cities and counties are eligible to receive from the OAA non-competitively. If they don't apply for it, we hold on to it. And so for the last few years, they have not applied for all of the money they're eligible to receive. And so the amount that we've been holding grows and grows. So that tall bar represents the assumption that, which I don't think is going to happen, but we have to budget this way, that all 133 cities and counties will seek during this fiscal year every penny that they're eligible to receive. And so that's why that orange part is so tall. If you were to pull that orange part out, you would see that the other budgeted expenditures are more in line with the blue line, if you will. Now, why this is important, the reason I interrupted, is that cities and counties have 5 years to use money once it's been deposited. And so we're coming up on that point in 2028. Cities and counties that don't apply for the money that was earmarked for them in fiscal year 23 will revert back to the fund where it can be dispersed to other cities and counties. And so I think it's worth pausing there just to point that out to the full board.
Thank you. That's a bit. So we are now on to a brief overview of the financial plan for fiscal year 2027 for city and county grant awards. This slide is a high-level overview of the recommended awards that will be before the grants committee and board, as we already have noted. And beginning with the individual disbursement and gold standard award totals, a total of 4.4 million has been approved for award statewide. And this amount provides funding associated with 78 applications from cities and counties, made up of 61 renewals and 17 new projects. Next slide. So moving to the budget and award totals for cooperative projects. Just as a reminder for the board, regional budget totals are calculated to serve as a guide to meeting the OAA statutory requirements to equitably distribute funds throughout the Commonwealth on a long-term basis. And the total recommended award amount for all projects statewide, including the use of unrestricted funds, totals $29.2 million. And these award recommendations are being proposed based on a cooperative project budget of $18.5 million and the use of $10.5 million for unrestricted funds. In addition, about $1.7 million of individual distribution funds have been pledged as a match toward these recommended awards. Okay. And taking a look at the distribution of all OAA grant awards by region, a total of $35.2 million is recommended for award. And as noted in the pie chart and table, 70% of the statewide recommended awards total is coming from regions 1 and 3. Regions 2, 4, and 5 amass the remainder. And it's also worth noting that the total amount of funding requested by cities and counties during this application cycle, 73% came from regions 1 and 3. And this slide concludes the overview of recommended grant funding, and we're now on to a brief overview of the 2026 General Assembly session. While the biennium budget for the Commonwealth has yet to be adopted, we know that there are so many of our colleagues who are working very diligently, including our very own chair, Senator Pillion, to ensure that we have a budget by July 1st. And in accordance with that, the House and the Senate will be returning to Richmond for special sessions on June 8th and June 22nd, respectively.
Thank you, Brianna, for mentioning that. Sorry, this is Senator Pillion hopping on. And I'm still on a call with Senate Finance, but thank you for mentioning that. Thank you for chairing this meeting. Congratulations on your new role. But yes, we are diligently working to get a budget. Hopefully we will have one by June 30th. So again, congratulations and thank you all for being there in person.
Thanks, Senator Pillion. Okay, and Chapter 7, which amends the fiscal year 26 budget, was approved during the regular legislative session. And items of note are that $17.2 million in core funding in FY26 was maintained. Next, 16 million in existing core funds appropriations and language was included, directing the Virginia Innovation Partnership Authority and OAA to coordinate the development of the opioid reversal agent manufacturing program through a contract with a private sector entity. And staff has already engaged in discussions and the initial plans to move forward with this directive. Next slide. Okay, on the legislative front, 58 bills concerning opioid and substance abuse related matters were introduced, of which 48 passed and will take effect on July 1st unless noted otherwise. 2 bills were continued, 8 bills failed to pass both bodies, and 1 was vetoed. And I think that this is simply a reflection of the fact that there's increased awareness, and you can see the chart, which showcases from 2023 to 2026 what occurred during the legislative session. Next slide. As you are all aware, 15% of all funds received go to the Commonwealth, and their non-OAA state funds are deposited to the Commonwealth Opioid Abatement and Remediation or Core Fund. And given that we are meeting before the biennial budget is adopted, the information depicts the FY26 caboose budget and former Governor Glenn Youngkin's biennial budget proposal. So from 2024 through fiscal year 2028, there's a total of 67.2 million core fund appropriations either approved or proposed. And to date, 86.3 million in core funds have been received and deposited, and approximately 193 million in total payments are projected to be deposited to the fund through fiscal year 41. On to the next slide. Madam Chair, I wish to provide a brief informational update on the OAA's administrative and grant compliance efforts, which you already heard about. There was an audit completed, and we lost my place, sorry. In grants compliance efforts and the FY 2027 through FY 2028 opioid abatement authority proposed budget, which the finance committee voted to recommend for approval during our June 5th meeting. You may recall in July of 2025, the auditor of public accounts conducted its inaugural, sorry, I can't read my own handwriting, statutorily required performance audit of the OAA. And as a result of that audit, there were a handful of management recommendations that were made by the EPA. And the OAA has documented all its financial processes and procedures, as you've already heard from Mr. McDowell, and efforts are already underway. If no one has questions, then we're just going to move forward.
I was going to say, Madam Treasurer, yeah, Tony went through this and fairly framed the details. So we could probably just move on.
Perfect.
And sorry,
Go for it.
if you don't mind.
No, go for it.
So within the that comprehensive manual that Tony referenced, it was on that last slide. Part of that is going to be the purchasing policy. And what the purchasing policy would do would essentially delegate authority to the executive director for requisitions, purchasing, both routine and like large procurements. As you know, the Code of Virginia exempts the OA from the procurement provisions of the Virginia Public Procurement Act, so that requires the OAA to develop a policy that's prudent, but also maintains the autonomy that the agency was allowed to have statutorily. So that's effectively what that's going to do. For large scale procurements, it would follow everything related to the DPPA like it was a normal executive branch agency. Same with the use of the small purchase credit card program that follows on applicable laws and regulations related to that. So it's really just a approved, concise purchasing program that would be included in that policy. That's it.
Wonderful, thank you for the assist. And now we're on to the very last slide. Finally, I'll conclude my report with a review of the proposed OAA FY 2027 and FY 2028 budget. This graph and table on the slide show the budget allocation of grant awards, unrestricted funds, and administrative costs over the biennium. Adjustments to the budget reflect the newest estimated settlement payment amounts, as well as carried forward for prior year balances, budget consistent with the board adopted long-term financial plan. The OAA administrative budget also matches the proposed appropriation contained in the introduced budget of SB and HB 30, which was unchanged in both the House and Senate floor approved budget amendments. Looking at the approved current fiscal year budget in relation to the FY 27 and FY 28 proposed budgets, you can see that overall costs have gone down in both full dollar amount and as a percentage share of the overall budget. And there are a handful of cost drivers or savings that contribute to this reduction in overall administrative costs. The largest cost savings is attributed to professional service costs, which largely reflects the vendors with whom the OAA contracts for certain core operational functions, such as information technology and grants management system and PR and marketing type services. And the only substantial cost driver is the modest increase in personnel costs. Among the professional services, one new item of note is a proposal to identify a vendor to conduct a pilot operational review program of our external audit recipients to ensure compliance with our grant requirement. And that concludes my report, and Adam and I are happy to answer all your.
Adam is in, right?
Start with Adam.
Any questions on the first report?
More detail.
No, but quite frankly, I think that it's really important that, I know we were laughing about this, but quite frankly, it just showcases all of the hard work of the OAA staff, and we're very grateful for each of you and the impact that our work does on a daily basis. So thank you very much for being here.
Totally agree. Speaking of hard work, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Charlie Lincoln at this point, who will give us a brief summary of our grants committee report, and then he's going to follow up with his director of operations report.
Sure. All right, so since the last grants committee report on November 19th of 2025, grants committee held the following meetings and took the following respective actions. Committee held an in-person meeting, virtual option on January 20th, 2026, received an update from the director of operations, including current status grant activities, review recommendations for amendments, for new amendments, and new awards to agencies of the Commonwealth. The committee approved awards for 6 new or amended individual distribution awards, totaling a little over $545,000. The committee also held an all virtual meeting on February 23rd, 2026. The committee received an update from the director of operations that included recommendations for amendments to state agency awards. The committee approved the amended awards to Virginia Commonwealth University and the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth, totaling OAA staff provided an all virtual information session on June 11th to review recommendations for the fiscal year 2027 awards to cities and counties. No business was discussed or conducted. And then the committee also held a meeting today, just prior to this meeting, received an update from the director of operations that included recommendations for fiscal year 27 awards to cities and counties. Committee approved the recommendations totaling over 35.2 million. The next scheduled grants committee meeting will be all virtual on August 14th, 2026, to consider recommendations for state agencies. This completes the grants committee report. All right, and now Director of Operations report. So for those that were in attendance during the grants committee, I showed a similar slide that looked at applications that they were just receiving for renewals and new projects for the upcoming year. So this is comprehensive because we do receive amendments and we receive new projects during the year as well. So you can see for the 25-26 application cycle, we received a total of 177 applications. So that means that over about 37 months of applications being accepted and worked, staff has reviewed 510 applications. So pretty good. Every time you run a number, it seems to continue to go up, but that also is reflective of the excellent work of our liaisons working out in the field and helping get more localities engaged and helping them work on the proper ways that the money can be used and working with applications and things like that. So and so to date, with the earlier approval today, we're cresting the 147 million mark and awarded 210 projects, and that includes all city and county awards and state agency awards. So I expect when recommendations are submitted in August for the state agency awards, we will significantly crest 150. Little grant operations update. So mainly we've been working on the 157 applications that came in recently, but are still a few remaining fiscal year 2026 awards where there's contingency documentation. That's usually an operational agreement or subrecipient agreement or the 80% encumbrance of the carry forward funds. And for those that are still haven't received FY26 funds, that was taken into consideration when the FY27 was made, so that we're not over awarding funds that they wouldn't be able to spend. State agencies tracking the completed MOUs and transferring funds, and the state agency proposal window closed on June 8th. We received 51 proposals from 18 agencies requesting over 22 million for their 26-27 performance period, and one agency that is first time submitting that proposal. So we'll be working on those starting next week and doing reviews and negotiations with those agencies to bring us to that next grade meeting. Well, standard, went over this in the grants committee meeting as well, 57% of our total cities and counties, up 17% from June of 25, up 105% from June of 24. There are a few localities that I believe that still intend to opt in, but they've had a lot of individual distribution funds to work through, and they haven't put in place enough projects to need to pull on those standard funds yet. But that 5-year timeline that Tony mentioned for them to be able to apply for the individual also, because the gold standard funds are made available and calculated based on the individual, it also applies to them. So I do believe there is the potential as we go into 2028 for some smaller localities to submit an application to combine all 5 years of what they've got and to do something for a project for a year or two, because many of them do not have a lot of funds available each year from small ones. That's it's not a guarantee, just a guess. Outreach update, national conferences being attended. So Erica and Jenny attended the Champions for Youth event, which is a national prevention conference coordinated by the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth. Adam and I got to attend a gathering of opioid settlement administrators in Austin, Texas, that was put on by the National Academy for State Health Policy. They're a nonprofit group that provides all kinds of different supports for public health and things. And they've been providing resources to state organizations like ours since the beginning of this process. Great event, a lot of great information, a lot of great contacts and connecting. And I also got to serve on a panel with 4 other states talking about take it or leave it, the things that those of us that have been doing this for a few years have learned, and what we would do again and what we would not do and not worry about. And then also, next month, the National Association of City County and Health Officials, or NACHO, or NACHO, as many people enjoy calling it, has their conference in Louisville. I was invited to do an on-demand session, which has been recorded and submitted. It's called Yes in My Backyard: Path of Virginia Community-Led Projects from Concept to Local Government Partnership to Receiving Opioid Settlement Funds. And this highlights two of our early awardees, the Hope House in Buena Vista and the Women Lifestyle Recovery in Abingdon. And there's a person, Lori Turner from Hope House, and Rick Mitchell from the Men and Women in Fairview Housing are part of that project, and they talk about what their journeys were. And there's a lot of good nuggets for organizations that are trying to figure out how to partner with localities to what they can do, how to become an asset instead of someone just asking for funds. And you will hear bits and pieces of that in the two sessions that separately that Rick and Lori are doing here this week for the conference. But then also myself, Matt, Kat, Jenny, Cindy, and Carol will also be attending the conference, which is focused on public health, but has a lot of substance use disorder and opioid related projects. And the people that are presenting them are frontline city and county health officials that are actually doing this work. So some conferences focus on policy and or like development of a project, but not like the implementation. And I got to attend this conference last year and do a presentation at it. And I noticed like this would be really great, especially for liaisons, to take more ideas back to our localities and things and make some more connections. So looking forward to that.
Madam Chair, do you mind if I make one comment?
Please, sure, please, yeah.
Just in relation to the NASHB conference that Charlie and I attended. So I think what, 31 states were present at least.
And DC, 31 and DC, I believe, yeah.
Right, so, and I know obviously it's Virginia's objective to lead in this space, right? And so we had an opportunity to sit at tables, talk to the settlement administrators in each one of those states, see what they're doing, share ideas, but talking with everyone there, as well as some other national organizations over there, and just observing our public relations and marketing efforts and the SUDA platform and what Virginia is doing easily stole the show. Like it was very apparent that Virginia was in a very, very strong position relative to our other state counterparts. Yeah. So just one.
Yeah. And a few examples on that is I was on the planning committee for that event. And then got pulled in on the last day into a discussion group to talk about how to communicate with general public and legislators and local governments and stuff, so that I could focus on the stuff that we've been doing with an associate. And then Adam's going to do a presentation to a larger virtual group with the same organization next month about that stuff as well. And yeah, so everybody keeps going, who's doing your social media? So really not telling them. I said, you can't all have them, we still need them.
Charlie, one item that's not on the slide is that our vice chair spoke at the RX
right.
Summit in a plenary session, and so.
Yes. The RX illicit drug summit this year did not have any breakout sessions on opioid settlements, but there was a plenary session. That's the chair, Thompson, got to speak, was invited to speak on that with two other people or just one?
Yeah, it was from Kentucky and Tennessee, so I had just written Tony a message, yes, that Virginia was definitely very ahead in the model for the country, I think.
Especially when it comes to making investments in local communities. Many is for specific projects. I haven't done the math, but I've not heard anyone else that's doing it at the level that they go, how did you do that? How did you get how did you get that to work? It's a lot of hard work, and a lot of street level. Other outreach updates, the liaisons are just constantly taking meetings and meeting people, whether it's the same locality on the 4th, 5th, 6th set of people that are there and starting over again. Or, Erica has been on with us since October 10th. And has reached out and made contact with all of her localities, and we certainly got new applications and new engagement from those localities this year as a result of that. Lots of meetings with various, people, the potential subrecipients, and regional meetings with, and to support groups. So it cannot say enough for the impact and the ability for us to be able to support the localities and review all these things that comes from those board ladies there. And then being out in the field in those communities where they can touch grass with them also. The various parts of the OAA staff has attended a number of ribbon cuttings and kickoff events for OAA this year. I didn't list any specifically because I was afraid I'd leave one out. But one of the biggest ones is the Northern Virginia youth. There's adolescent residential treatment center, which is the first center of its kind. That was a initial first year award for cooperative project from OAA, a top priority in Northern Virginia. And it took a long time to figure out how to get a partner on board to help them run it, but it is open and it is seeing patients, and it will see people from all over the state. And I think as they get their legs under them and stuff, if there's needs in other communities, then there is a model for how this can be done. And the companies that they're working with are helping kind of blaze that trail here in Virginia. Also, the Community Services Board One Stop for the SUD Continuum up in Allegheny, Ms. Barber's area. It's probably the fastest large scale project to go from award to ribbon cutting and opening. The number of staff to attend that recently as well, to bring all of the Allegheny, Covington area SUD services under one roof. And it's a great facility that's going to be really significant for the community, and it's in town. It's not one of those things that's out in the middle of nowhere. So, and I'm sure there's some others that I have missed, but those were two. And I know there's some board members that attended some as well. We also got to do some site visits. There's 4 recovery high schools in Virginia. This time last year there was 1, and OAA is just funding and supporting 3 of them: Chesterfield, Waynesboro, and Chesapeake. Waynesboro and Chesapeake being new ones this year. We got to visit those. The 4th one's Loudoun County. They just haven't applied for any OAA funding yet. But we got to visit both of those. We also got to go to see a Department of Corrections facility in Goochland. It's a women's facility, and hear about the social workers that have become an instrumental piece to the success of their treatment recovery program there. And there's a session here on that this weekend conference. We've also continued to support Operation Stop Awardees with technical assistance, as well as award acceptance and program implementation. Convention on the grants committee. There's VCU coordinates quarterly meetings. And not only do they hear from us from a technical standpoint, but they also bring in other experts to talk about different harm reduction opportunities. People from Junior Society of Prediction Medicine. They brought in a speaker who's the executive director for the National Black Harm Reduction Network. Lots of experts, and then there's experts at VCU also that provide their expertise as these programs are being out there and have an impact in the community. And then I think I've kind of covered the last one probably 4 or 5 times. The work of the liaisons that they're doing out into the community that's involved. So here I'm so it's a little bit of my chart from back here. Apologies for that. Last year at this time, we brought recommended changes to the terms and conditions for the FY27 awards, and I included an award acceptance timeframe and a contingency completion timeframe, because there's been lots of lag between us making awards and localities and even state agencies too, getting through the steps that need to be done so the funds can be transferred and the project can start. And there was a question about, is there anything we can do to kind of help with the administrative burden? And most of the steps that we put in place are part of our risk management and part of they're kind of a step in our overall compliance program. And they are best practices from a grant standpoint. And people that work heavily in the federal grant space say that we asked a lot less than many funding agencies. But with that, there was, at the time, we said we would look at what was going on. So changes that we have made thus far overall to help reduce is, so we used to have two reports that had to be due after the performance period. One was the carry forward true up, and then one that was the annual report. We have now merged those into one report that's due October 1st. So that is one report that the localities no longer have to do on its standalone on its own. So that's and that's already been integrated into our system, into the grants portal. We published a webinar and a slide deck. I said Sharika put this wonderful grants management 101. Like, you've got an OAA grant. Now what do you do? So this is to also, it's kind of a plan for them to be thinking about. We did it in May 21st ahead of this meeting where the awards might be made, so they could start putting plans in place to, if they've got to put things in front of boards and councils and things like that, to think about the timelines to try and get things accepted and get funds out to the community quickly. Last year, we increased the time frame for cities and counties to apply. We moved from October to a mid-August opening. And this year, we're going to move to mid-July. So even more time and probably closing out towards the end of mid to end of March. Still working on the details on that piece. And we increased the annual reporting time for cities and counties from September 1st to October 1st. Also in process is publishing a minimum requirements for any subrecipient operational capital cost agreements, guide for them that when those are required, publishing a decision tree to help applicants determine whether or not a subrecipient's proposal is engaging with another vendor. So might your subrecipient have its own subrecipients, and what does that mean for your application? Also some optional templates for subrecipient agreements, guide on how to prepare for the operational reviews, kind of the site reviews and audits that we're looking to do, and adding a feature to the portal to ease the process for application and report signatures when they have to be sent back for updates or corrections, and trying to set it so it doesn't have to go back to the executive every time. We're planning to do more webinars on grants management, as well as working to combine various guidance and documents into kind of a comprehensive overall OAA grant guidance plan. And so the last piece to talk about is the operational reviews, which I think both Tony and Delegate Sewell talked about. So this is, we've now got enough projects that we've awarded that it's time to go, and they report to us every year. It's time to go see if what they're reporting is matching up to what they're actually doing. And so audits is a bit of a strong word, because it's not a full audit in a sense, because a portion of these funds are audited every year as a requirement by the auditor of public accounts for every locality, and it's in their basically their financial statements for that locality, and it's published publicly every year. So there is a level that's happening on the financial side. So most of our stuff is going to focus on the operational side, looking at achievement of objectives, looking at how performance measures are maintained from a data standpoint and being able to view those in action, things like that. So the overall framework is we have day-to-day communications on a regular basis with all of our awardees. We do site visits, and not necessarily always as a compliance check, but just to see an update on the program. Most of it, like I think we could probably go see one every day, just about they're always excited to show us what's going on. And then field and desk compliance reviews. So this would be us kind of taking the annual report in their project and looking through and validating either through documents they submit or going out to the field. This is where we're looking to probably engage an external firm, both from a cost standpoint and a capacity standpoint. Originally, I had envisioned that the liaisons would have the capacity to, at certain times of the year, to do operational reviews, and they don't, given the number of grants we have. Additionally, we focus so much on providing the assistance to get stuff on. It could have an appearance of fox in the hen house kind of thing. The people that are helping build the application and then reviewing and recommending the application are also doing the compliance check. So having an independent group to do that and then provide results to us, and then we can the staff can make recommendations for the final, decisions, to help mitigate any issues that the contractors might not have known to be a best process. And then I mentioned the, external, reports, and then, are kind of constantly ongoing technical services and things. And so ideally, there will be a review. If there's enough problems found out, there may be a second level, move up and expand scope. If there are problems found, there will have to be some type of performance improvement plan that they would have to be put on. And it could potentially restrict them from being able to get like new awards and things, but we wouldn't cut funds out from them completely because they may need some funds to get things straightened out. I don't want to overprescribe until we get out there and see what's happening, but by and large, between the staff visits and liaisons contacts, there's not anywhere we have like major concerns with compliance. I don't think we've got, empty buildings that millions of dollars were supposed to have been sent on. We hear too much from the community about what's going on in the impact, so.
But Madam Chair, if I could note one thing, Joyce, is the FY 27 and FY 28 budget that is for the board for approval contains some money under the professional services category to retain a contractor to engage in a pilot operational review. So once we understand how that process works, we can move forward and kind of scale up if needed on a comprehensive operation review.
Yeah. So that we're not taking a guess. We go, okay, this is how much time it takes to do this. This is how many we need to do within a year. What is the cost of that? What should that look like? So when we go out to procure, we know and ask for permission and procure and work out any bumps in the road. I think that can be.
Any questions for Mr. Lincoln? Thank you for your reports. We will move on to time in our meeting where we have public comment. We ask speakers limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes. Members of the public joining us remotely can click the raise hand feature if you'd like to be acknowledged. And do we have any speakers physically present who have signed up to speak? Anybody here who hasn't signed up would like to speak? We have anybody online? Okay. Thank you. All right, we're going to turn our attention to new business this time. In order to address the pending vacancies in the OAA board officer positions, I'm going to ask Mr. McDowell to conduct a special election.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I mentioned during my report, we have some vacancies that are coming about that will require us to conduct election of officers at today's meeting. These will be for positions that would become effective on July 1. And will carry until the annual elections occur in November. And so any member of the board can nominate any other member of the board, including themselves. And it's not necessary for there to be a second. And so with that, the first office that we need to open up the nomination for elections is for the office of vice chair. And so at this time, I would like to ask if anybody would like to make a nomination for a board member for the position of vice chair. I'd like to nominate Delegate Sewell. Delegate Sewell has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, Delegate Sewell, would you be willing to be considered for this vote before we take it? Okay, so, all those in favor of Delegate Sewell to be vice chair of the board, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, Delegate Sewell is elected effective July 1st as the vice chair of the board. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Because Delegate Sewell was serving as the treasurer, we now have a vacancy for the treasurer position effective July 1st. And so are there any nominations for the position of treasurer?
Want to do it? No, go for it.
I nominate Ingrid. Are there any other nominations? Okay, Ms. Barber has been nominated for the position of treasurer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Congratulations on your election. And then the final position is open because Mr. Tillum resigned from the board. It's a position of secretary.
Mr. Spencer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Spencer, thank you. Resigned from the board. We have a vacancy for the position of secretary. So do I hear any nominations for the position of secretary?
I nominate Sheriff.
Any other nominations? All those in favor of Sheriff Barron, serving as treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, that concludes the elections.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item B, we consider approval of policy on all virtual meetings. Do I hear a motion to adopt the annual policy for individual members to participate in electronically in meetings and for all virtual public meetings? So moved. Second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, item C, considering approval of amendments to OAA bylaws. Do I hear a motion to approve amendments to section 2.1 and 4.4 of the OAA bylaws as presented by the executive director during this meeting?
So moved.
Second? Second. Thank you. All in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Thank you. Item D. We're going to consider the authorization of Finance Committee to adopt the OAA policy manual. Do I hear a motion to approve delegated authority for the Finance Committee to adopt final comprehensive OAA policy manual on behalf of the OAA Board of Directors? So.
Second.
Second, yes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, item E, considering approval of our fiscal year 27 to fiscal year 28 OAA budget. Do I hear a motion to approve this biennial budget as proposed? So moved. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Unanimous. All right, I think we're getting to the end of our new business now. This is to consider authorization for the executive director to procure professional services to conduct operational compliance reviews. Do I hear a motion to authorize our executive director to procure this professional services to conduct operational compliance reviews of grantees, the funding for which is included in our fiscal year 27-28 OAA budget as
So moved.
second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Approved. At this point, I will entertain a motion to.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you all. Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. And on to the conference.